Look out, y'all. Ashy Knuckles. Doing a little post-fight video. Having a hard time sleeping, so I figured I might as well go on here and get a video in. So I won't have to do it tomorrow. Starting with the undercard, Jermell Charlo versus Martirosyan. I didn't do videos on either one of these fights. I respect both of these fighters. I remember back in '08 when Bonez and all of them trained together. Everybody was down here, you know what I'm saying? And I said on Twitter a long time ago, or when the fight was first announced, that Jermell as a fighter in '08 isn't the same fighter as he is in 2014. He's leaps and bounds better now than he was then. Actually, both of them are, as a matter of fact. But in the fight, I actually expected the fight to be a little bit more easier for Jermell. Obviously, he had a lot of respect for Bonez's skill set. You know, he did box behind a jab. Early on, it seemed like Bonez was reading the jab really well as far as trying to time it with a right hand. So of course Jermell mixed up his jab. He started doubling it up. He started getting on the move a little bit. He started moving his head, and he started mixing in that right hand in a whole lot. It seemed like damn near every punch he threw, he hit Bonez with. But Bonez was never hurt in a fight. He was always in the fight. In the rounds that he won them decisively. But the thing about Bonez is, if you press him, if you press the attack against him, it seems like he kind of gets not on the defensive, but it seems, you know, if you make him think that what he got isn't good enough to win, he won't be as aggressive. But if you let him come after you, he's gonna be like a fucking lion on a wildebeest. And Bonez got good hitting power too. He got good boxing skills and good hitting power. But his biggest detriment, I believe, is he don't move his head whatsoever. Every punch Jermell threw, he hit him with. And a lot of people were saying that Bonez got robbed in his fight. I didn't see that. Now, granted, I wasn't wowed by either guy. It was a great display of skills on both of those guys' part. I mean, when you got two good fighters in the ring, sometimes it doesn't make for an eye-appealing fight because they're trying to outthink each other. These are two boxers in there. Actually, one boxer puncher against one classy boxer. But it was a chess match in there. At least for the first part of the fight, until Bonez had a cut for which looked like he was trying to find a way out of the fight. If you've been around boxing, you've seen fighters fight with far bigger cuts in worser places, and they still wanted to fight. I remember when Chico's mouth was bleeding because when he fought Casamayor, he punched him in the mouth and kind of split his mouthpiece in half. Mouthpiece went through his lip. That blood all over the place. He never wanted to stop the fight. Klitschko, when he fought Lennox Lewis, had by far one of the worst cuts I've ever seen in boxing. He didn't want the fight to stop. They stopped the fight, but he never wanted the fight to stop. Antonio Tarver got his jaw broke in the first Eric Hardin fight. He was losing. Actually, he was losing even in the rematch. He was losing against Eric Hardin until he caught him with a counter shot that ruined the day for Eric Hardin. Eric Hardin was a good Philadelphia light heavyweight in his time. He wasn't getting no shine though. It wasn't a spotlight on that division. Maybe because Roy was just beating the hell out of everybody at that time. And I can think of countless other guys who have fought on with injuries in the ring. Guys have fought on with broken rotator cuff. Eric Morales versus Jesus Chavez. Jesus Chavez injured his rotator cuff early in the fight. He went to 12. Arthur Abraham had a jaw broke against Edison Miranda. He continued to fight for like 8, 9, 10 rounds with a broken jaw. That little cut that Vonez had, it wasn't, in my opinion. I'm not a fighter now, and I know headbutts hurt. There's no amount of training you can get that can prepare you for the pain of a headbutt. That's bone hitting against your flesh. So I know it hurts, but at the end of the day, you're a fighter. This is part of the game. This is part of the game. And when you encounter adversity, it kind of tells me what type of what your mentality is like when you get a cut like that and you trying to find an escape. The doctor was like, "Can you see?" Well, it's blurry. I don't know if I can open it and stuff like that. I was like, I'm surprised they didn't stop the fight right then and there, because the doctor apparently didn't deem it severe enough for him to stop the fight. So if Vonez would have said he couldn't continue, that wouldn't have been a scorecard. That would have been a Charlo victory. You know what I'm saying? Because the doctor didn't rule that uh, it was bad enough for the fight to be stopped, and he wasn't going to because the cut wasn't that bad. Now I know it hurt. It's a cut from a headbutt, but at the end of the day, it wasn't bleeding profusely to the point where blood was just entering into his eye and impeding his vision. It was Von S saying that he couldn't open his eye. He was actually, well, I don't know. It just looked like, I don't want to call him the name or anything like that, especially so late in the night. I don't really feel up to it, but it just didn't look like he was trying to continue fighting. But he did continue, and to his credit, he started going after Charlo. And he did land some good shots on Jermell, but for the most part, Jermell was blocking, moving. And for some reason, some people just don't see defense unless it's Mayweather doing it. And I don't get it, because I'm like, at the end of the fight, only one guy's face was swollen. Jermell's face, he looked like he hadn't even been in a fight. So I'm like, what are y'all not seeing in this fight? Now I'm gonna go ahead and chalk this one up to being biased, cause them Charlos, they're my boys, and I see great things for them. This was a tough fight, and he did what he had to do to get the victory. You're not gonna impress every time out. You are gonna have tough fights. This was a tough fight. It should have been a 12 rounder. This was a championship caliber fight, and it just didn't please people's eyes. A lot of people were upset. I don't know how people said Gonzalez got robbed. Like I said, why? How come Twin's face was not puffy in the least bit? Are you saying Vonez can't punch? And you know that ain't true. Vonez can crack. That right hand he got is something else. So I don't know. At the end of the day, Twin moves on. He gets the victory. They go forward. Vonez back to the drawing board. Still good fights for him. He's with Al Heyman, so he'll be back on TV. But Vonez got to keep it together mentally in the fight. He got to keep his composure and keep working. Round after round, you got to keep working. Keep putting the pressure on these guys. Keep letting your hands go. You letting other guys dictate. And I thought when Twin went after him, when Twin walked towards him, he was having more success than he did when he was boxing on the move. Because when Twin was going after him, Vonez couldn't hit him with nothing. He could see everything coming. And I think Vonez had more success when Jermell decided to get on the bike a little bit. So they both got things they need to work on. But at the end of the day, you get the W, you move forward, you get the L. It's back to the drawing board. And when you got two good fighters in the ring, somebody got to take the L. And just because you lose, that don't mean you a bum. It seemed like you got to etch that in stone for people to realize that. But anyway, but the fight of the night has to be the Gary Russell outing. Way to come back, man. So many people wrote this guy, Gary Russell, off after the Lomachenko defeat. Of course, you heard his excuses as to why he lost the fight. In my opinion, no one goes to training camp to lose. Matter of fact, that's not an opinion, that's a fact. No one goes to training camp to lose. And whatever happens in that fight, whether you get your ass whooped or you wouldn't pull on the trigger, it's not because of something that happened in the gym. It's because of who's on the other side of that ring with you. because at the end of the day, if you ain't making those excuses before the fight, I have a hard time believing it after the fight, or especially before 2 fights afterwards. But at the end of the day, he lost to Lomachenko, and it don't seem like they're gonna ever let Gary Russell forget about it. They asked him more times about Lomachenko than they did about his opponent tonight, and I think they kind of pissed Gary Russell off. I think he had a point to prove tonight, for all the naysayers and detractors who said he was just a overhyped, protected Heyman fighter, and at the moment he stepped up in class, he would get his ass whooped. Well, I think this fight was to prove to those guys that not only they either don't know what the fuck they talking about, or that he is a force to be reckoned with, at least within the 126-pound division. I don't know about him being a kingpin. The kingpin of the division is your boy Nicky from Jamaica, Nicholas Walter. I believe that's his last name. It's late in the night. I'm kind of tired, but for some reason I ain't going to sleep. But anyway, the guy who beat the dog shit out of Nonito Donaire, he's the top dog in the division. But at the end of the day, this is what boxing does. Boxing people do. They'll give credit to one guy and say he's the top guy in the division, but at the end of the day, if you got other champions in the division, there's only one way to declare that you are the top guy, and that is to unify all the titles. Time and time again, we see guys getting getting people declaring guys to be the top champion of the division without even unifying. So at the end of the day, Lomachenko, Gary Russell, and Nicholas Walter got to get in the ring and make it happen. Actually, Nicholas Walter and Lomachenko got to get in the ring and make it happen, because Lomachenko already had his business with Gary Russell, and we saw how that turned out. So, there's some great interesting matchups for Gary Russell at 26. In the fight with Jhonny Gonzalez, I mean, Team Russell did their homework. They knew they were fighting a decisively slower opponent, slower of hand and foot. They knew about the power, but in boxing, power isn't everything. Speed isn't everything. It's a thinking man's game. If you do your homework on your opponent and you figure out his vulnerabilities and ways to capitalize on it, and you can execute in between bells, guess what? You win. And Gary Russell knew he had the better boxing skills. He had the faster hands going into the fight. And I guess he believed that if he not only dictated the pace of the fight, but countered Jhonny Gonzalez in between his combination, that he would have a very good chance of hitting him in a good spot with a shot that he didn't see coming and possibly hurt him. I don't know if he foresaw the way that he would take him out, if he would take him out so quickly as he did. But at the end of the day, he caught him with a hook, and that was all she wrote for Jhonny Gonzalez. I would love to see Russell face Abner Mares next. That's a good fight for him, and we'll see what happens with Gary Russell moving forward. Maybe people won't maybe people will stop saying that he was a bum or he's an overhyped or overprotected Al Heyman fighter. He just stepped up in class again, and he passed with flying colors this time, and sat down on his punches and made some things happen. Speed and timing, generated some power, got that boy out of there. So I think a lot of times when you hear guys making it sound, the theory is that they're not hitting hard. That sound is a sound that a lot of amateurs make. They bring that with them to the pros. A lot of guys. It's not just sometimes it's ha ha ha. You know what I'm saying? you're actually exhaling as you punch because you don't want to get caught. Let's say you get countered. Well, if you're exhaling when you punch, um, if you get hit, and like let's say with a body shot, you've already exhaled all the air out of your body, so the impact of the punch won't be as damaging as it is if you're trying to inhale while getting hit. Now, just think about that physically. As you inhale, your body is filling up with air, which means your stomach is coming outward. Where if that is happening at the same time somebody is punching it, you can see how the enduring the shot during that process makes it feel like it's more powerful of a punch than what it really is. But if you exhale your stomach in and you get hit, you're gonna still feel the force of the punch, but it won't have the same effect because you exhaled all the air out of you. I think that's where that ha ha comes into play. Um, I think that's learned at an early age. Um, but at the end of the day, man, it was a good fight, good night of fights. Um, that's all I got for you. I'll holler at y'all tomorrow, man. Your boy Charlo.